All right, I'm ready to get started, Guy, and I'll go ahead and read the topic, and then I'll hand it over to you for the key lesson, etc.
Thank you.
All right. Our topic tonight is what to do when your whole world turns upside down.
First, welcome to those of you who are here in the room. And of course, welcome to everyone who is joining us from wherever you are in the world, whatever time it may be, whether you're actually during the live broadcast or catching a replay. Either way, I'm glad that you're here. I want to look at something that in one sense is so obvious and evident, but on the other hand is so strange and mysterious as to almost be not just unexamined, but to not even exist for the human being who, with every fiber of his or her being, is asked to understand that mystery. I was sitting here and made a note just before I started talking, because when I'm contemplating the material that I intend to present, it's inevitable that, like spring flowers, these ideas and insights pop up into my mind, and then I scramble to find some way to include them in what I want to say. I can't do all of it, but I will do this one with you. Take a nice deep breath. The human being, you and I, is the source of every and all mystery there is in the universe. And the human being, you and I, is also the answer to every mystery in the universe. What a setup. What an unbelievable relationship you are intended to have with life, where your experiences moment to moment are intended to at once produce the mystery of how can that be happening again? What is that about? What does that mean? All of the endless questions that we ask when life doesn't confirm us as we imagine ourselves to be. And at the same time that all of that's going on, just beneath the surface of the mind that has reacted in the way it has, is the answer to every question the same mind puts to itself. That's what we're going to look at tonight, this extraordinary mystery. So I'm going to read the key lesson, and then I've decided to indulge myself a little bit. And I trust that you'll stay with me. I promise. And please know that I am present to myself, sitting here, aware of myself, of every thought that's moving through my head, because I would not say this otherwise. I am quite sure there's no place on this planet better than being right here tonight to study these ideas, because you won't find any place on this planet where something alive is being conveyed to the living for the sake of bringing those who wish into another order of life itself. You'll see. Here's the key lesson for this evening's class. Nice deep breath. Falling into fear or doubt when caught in the gravity of a painful moment does not prove the world has suddenly turned upside down. This kind of suffering appears as it does for one reason, and one reason only: to help us see that what's upside down is our priorities. To realize this as true is the first and prerequisite step for anyone wishing to turn his or her life around, and so as to enter into a new, truer arrangement with real life. In one respect, there is no way that the true teachings on this planet, no way they can be presented to a human being other than through the language that that culture embraces and understands, so to speak, where in the very presentation of a principle that is timeless and that has no form, the very fact that it's brought into creation and spoken of or acted out by a man or a woman who has understanding of the same, there's no way that can be done without that teaching, without that principle being wrapped in what seems to be an enigma, a mystery. For those to whom it's given, and I trust and I hope, pray for you that it is given to you to want to understand the things that you don't. Ideas that have been presented through time that in the very exclamation of them produce what does that mean? The first shall be last and the last shall be first. What does that mean? Sell all and follow me. What does that mean? Sell all and follow? Lose my life to be born, to find it? That doesn't make any sense at all. None of that makes any sense at all. When a person begins to look around and try to figure out, well, what does that mean? The real meaning of the word repent. Turn around. Turn around to what? What turns around? To what do I turn around? What is all of this about? As every teaching has layer upon layer, like those nesting dolls, mystery within mystery within mystery, but every last mystery is answered by the human being who goes to the end of wishing to understand himself or herself, because that's where you find the answers to these mysteries. And it is a mystery to you why you are so angry. It is a mystery to you why you are so depressed or lonely or confused, so anxious all the time, saying that you understand that you shouldn't be like that, and yet remaining exactly as you say you know you shouldn't. And instead of understanding the mystery there, you allow yourself to be told over and over again why it is that you are the way you are. And you settle the mystery that is not meant to be settled by thought. No thought can solve the mystery of a human being and his or her relationship with God. No thought is capable of doing it. Now, I said I was going to indulge myself, and I'm going to. I'm going to read something to you from the Apocryphal of St. Peter. The Apocryphals were these manuscripts, mostly destroyed, that survived somehow and found in Hagman, in a Hagman, I can never say it, found in a clay vessel in a cave a long, long time ago. And I'm going to read this to you so that you can begin to understand a little bit of what the key lesson said, which was essentially what? This kind of suffering appears as it does, falling into fear, the gravity of doubt, for one reason and one reason only, to help us see that what's upside down in life is our priorities. Listen to what was written about what St. Peter, who was Simeon, before Simon became Peter, he had the name Simon, which meant basically the one who hears the word. Simeon, the one who hears the word. But Christ changed his name from Simeon to Peter, from the one who hears the word to the rock upon which the word will be built. So the word Simon went to Peter because it indicated a change that took place in the consciousness of Simon. You and I are meant to go from the one who hears to the one within whom this work, this life is built, so that we become, as all of us are intended to do, the very reflection of that other order of reality in which the mysteries are solved. Just let me go through this. Bear with me. If you can't understand the language, you will get enough out of this to understand what we're talking about, which is what? What is this mystery about everything being reversed? We talked about it on Sunday. that we are now being ridden by the donkey. The reactions, they ride us. We were never intended to be ridden by thoughts and feelings. They were intended to be saddled, if you will, by us. Instead, we're saddled by a mind that knows nothing of itself, let alone what it does to itself. That's a reversal, isn't it? Isn't that upside down? So Peter asked Nero in Rome, and whether or not this happened, I don't give a hoot. I can tell you from what I know, from what I'm reading to you, that this teaching was conveyed and written so that the teaching could be conveyed to those who have eyes and ears to hear it. So whether or not this took place means nothing. Everything is already contained in this mystery that he describes, and how you and I are enabled, if we are, to understand it. And again, you have to understand, Peter asked Nero, please, I know you're going to crucify me. Please do not crucify me the way Christ was crucified. I don't deserve that. Rather, please crucify me upside down. Now, why would Peter make a request like that? There was a teaching conveyed in it. He says, you men unto whom it belongeth to hear, hearken to that which I declare unto you at this special time as I hang here. Learn you the mystery of all nature and the beginning of all things. For the first man, whose race I bear in my appearance, fell, was born head downwards, and showed forth a manner of birth such as was not before that, for it was dead, having no motion. He then, being pulled down, was also cast his first state down upon the earth, established this whole disposition of things, being hanged there up in an image of the work of creation, where he made the one who was hung upside down, where he made the things of the right hand into the left hand, and the left hand into the right hand, and changed about all the marks of their nature, so that he thought those things that were not fair to be fair, and those things that were in truth evil to be good, concerning which the Lord saith in mystery, unless you make the things of the right hand as those of the left, and those of the left as those of the right, and those that are above and those below, and those things that are behind as should be before, you shall not have knowledge of the kingdom. Now, what in the name of God is that teaching about? Well, it begins with understanding that everything in this world is upside down. Everything in this world is upside down. But we don't know that everything in this world is upside down, but suffer from the misperception of that fact. There was a beautiful story. It just dawned on me when I was working on these notes that I wanted to recall it. Many, many, many years ago, Vernon, Mr. Howard, he told this very short story. He said there was a town of good people, and in the middle of that town square, there was this beautiful statue of a golden arrow pointing straight up in the air. And that the purpose of the golden statue pointing straight into the arrow, had been there almost before the town was established. And it was intended that everybody that lived in that town, as they walked by the main square, that they would see this arrow looking up and remind them that that's where they were to look for guidance, was straight up. But came into that town an evil mayor and his evil councilmen who wanted to control the town, but who knew they couldn't as long as the people in that town believed that the guidance they were to make their lives whole came from above. So at night, every night, for weeks and weeks and perhaps years on end, and in truth, for centuries on end, these men would sneak into the town square and begin to turn the arrow around by carving out the bottom and filling in the top, so that instead of the arrow pointing up, men and women slowly began to look at that arrow and look down. And the more they looked down, the more the town sank into the corruption that follows when human beings believe that guidance comes from below them, from thoughts and feelings and images and all of the various identities created by that, until the town fell into absolute corruption. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the story of the world today. You cannot argue, at least I hope you wouldn't, that this world of ours is unbelievably what? Out of order. Isn't it? Out of order. But no one, most of us, have no clue at all, which is really much to the point of our talk tonight, that the world is upside down, because when things in our life turn upside down, it is always the fault of someone else who did something to upset the apple cart, to pull the rug out from underneath us so we went flying. And when we fly through the air because of what someone else has done, obviously it isn't our understanding that's at fault, it's their understanding. You understand that much with me? And when human beings look at this world through the viewpoint where what is up is down, where what is right is left, what is good is evil. And listen to me, evil does not mean moral corruption. The original meaning of evil was that which misled a man or a woman from working at and embracing the good. That's what evil is. Evil is that which tempts a human being to serve himself or herself first at the cost of their own development without having any clue that's taking place. That's where wars come from. You want to know where wars come from? They don't come because some country, some religious ideal sets itself against another country or another religion. Wars begin with men and women who, believing that what they see as being true should be embraced and worshipped by everyone else, so that when you don't see what I say is true, then the problem lies with you. And then I will use coercion or any other thing that I can control to bring you into obedience with what I say life should be like. And whether that's one-on-one or country on country, it is that conflict that begins in a human being's heart that eventually becomes the heart of this hatred that circulates all around our planet today. Do you understand what I'm saying about the nature of war? How has this happened? I have another story to tell you. It's not my own. I don't know where I got it. I just remembered it. But I know I didn't write it. I wish I had. Here's two monks, and they're in a heated argument. Now, first of all, let's be clear. Two monks that are in a heated argument have not learned anything from the school they're in. That's first. Two monks are in a heated argument about this flag that's flapping in the wind. And they're so upset with each other with this argument that when the master comes walking by, they go running after him, stopping him, which is always rude. And they stop the master and they say to the master, "Master, please, we want to know which one of us is right. We need you to make it clear." And of course, both are thinking the master's going to take their side, right? One says, "The flag is moving." The other cuts him off. "No, the wind is moving." "No, it's the flag that's moving." "No, it's the wind that's moving." And the master just puts his hand up, indicating, "Shut up." He says, "Not the wind, not the flag, mind is moving." Not the wind, not the flag, mind is moving. Those monks could not understand what is something essential to the interior development of any human being who wants to have a soul. And that is that this world that we are in perceive the way we do is all upside down. It is upside down to believe that what you see outside of you is the cause of your experience of what you see. That is upside down. That is placing the value and the power and the strength of your possibility as a human being in the misperception that something that you're looking at is responsible for the pain being revealed within you. That's upside down, isn't it? Can you understand that? When our perception is reversed, all we can do is fight with each other because we can't see the same truth. Just please try and understand this. We're so locked down, so fixed. How will there ever be peace? Now listen, in this world, as long as two human beings look at this world and see in this world something that conflicts with what each other believes is true about this world, there will never be peace. Because I will be identified with what I see, and you will be identified with what you see. And when you and I see different things, we will fight over what we see because we are identified with what we see and believe that unless the other sees what I see and the way I see it, that person is a threat to me. Yes or no? So our talk, our purpose of our study tonight is to try and see with clarity what are some of the things that we, you and I, have backwards. What are some of the things that we have backwards? Now, I've made a list because I don't know what kind of participation I'm going to get. Because I do know this. I know that it is the clarity with which we see things that creates the clarity of action that we take. And that there are an abundance of parts of us that do not want to see where we have things upside down. Because if I actually see where I have things upside down, I can't unsee it. That's what a school is for. To wake you up to things that you can't unsee. That's why men and women run from real schools. Because the minute that we get any hint at all that we have been living in a world where I believe it's the flag that's moving and you believe it's the wind that's moving, and then the truth says, no, the problem is the mind is always moving and it will always be at odds with something else challenging it. So I've prepared examples. If I don't get examples from you out there or from the people in the room to show where it is that things are upside down. Here's the first. And I'm asking you to see this with me. We see the world and its passing conditions as a separate place outside the consciousness in which it's reflected. We see the world and the conditions in it as a separate place existing outside the consciousness in which it's reflected. That's why the monks were arguing, weren't they? In consciousness, it is the mind that is moving. To the perceiver, identified with the flag or the wind, the condition is movement outside of the consciousness. But the consequence of that misperception is mistaking the reflection for reality. That's the consequence. I believe that what I see is a fact, instead of recognizing that the consciousness that divides me up into someone who knows what's going on as opposed to someone who actually understands. The movement is in my mind. The movement is in my mind. Then my mind tells me what's moving. The movement of that wind and flag. Can a flag move without wind? And what good is wind without a flag if you want to use that? They are one thing, aren't they? But the mind doesn't see it like that. So we look out of this at this world and believe that what we see is separate from the consciousness that it's reflected in. That's upside down, is it not? We believe that you and I believe that we are the ones who create and who are in charge of our own reactions. You see, you can laugh out loud, but when the reaction comes, I am the one who will defend it tooth and nail. I am the one who will think about everything that it stirs in me because it's my reaction. And if it's my reaction, by God, it's valid. And since it's my reaction, I have to protect myself from anyone that doesn't see my reaction as being valid. That's upside down. You are not the creator of your reactions. You are the donkey being ridden by them, saddled by every thought and feeling that passes through you, that as it passes through you, to hide the fact that it is upside down, produces an identification with what it's reacting to and says, that's valid, man. That's real. Do you see it with me? Another example, the presence of something that's upside down. See it. The presence of anxiety proves that something very valuable is at stake. That's upside down. The presence of anxiety proves something valuable is at stake. Why? Well, because something may be lost unless we react appropriately. When the fact is it's upside down because the very identification with anxiety makes us the donkey, makes us the slave of the thing that we think we're going to free ourselves from. You have never freed yourself from anxiety. You have never freed yourself from depression. You have never freed yourself from a single unconscious negative state, because the very act of trying to free yourself from a negative state is upside down. You are not the one who frees you. That is upside down. But we don't know it's upside down because we are so vested in the identity produced when we get anxious or afraid that it never dawns on us, which is the next thing that's upside down. Is this not upside down? You and I see the image, the thought, whatever it may be, we see the image and the thought as the same thing that thought or image represents. So that we look at a thought or an image of something and we believe the image is in fact real. I look at the image of a time to come when I'm going to be content. I look at that image, I'm on board with it, 100%. Not knowing that the image is created by a consciousness trying to escape itself. Otherwise, it wouldn't have to imagine a time to come when things would be better. So in that moment, everything is upside down. The mind, the level of consciousness divided as it is determining for me what I see, who I am, and what I need to do to get someplace imagined that even if I manage to manifest some of that, I'm still not free. Because why? Everything is upside down. You following me? I'll give you one more. Because of that ignorance of believing that the image is the thing, we believe the world that we're in exists to serve our pleasure. That's how we see the world. What do you do every day other than try to figure out how to enhance pleasure or escape things that are painful? I live in a world, I was brought here, I didn't do it on my own, but by God, I am going to make this world my heaven. That's what I believe is true of this world and why I'm in it. That I am to take from it what I want. That is how I see the world. I hate myself when I can't get enough, and I momentarily love myself when I can manifest what I've imagined will make me whole. That's upside down. We are not in this world to make our lives as perfect as imagined. We are in this life to perfect ourselves through what this world shows us about ourselves, and in the perfection of the soul, perfect the world that we are here to serve. We are here on this planet to serve this world, not to have this world serve us. We are here to be perfected through our relationship with creation, because our relationship with creation is secretly a reflection of the consciousness in which all of creation already exists. But when it's upside down, I don't realize that I'm being shown all that I've been given. I only see what I want that's given, and I don't want what isn't given to me. That's completely upside down, isn't it? I'm going to turn it over to you now. What are some examples of where you have a suspicion or you know for a fact that you have things upside down? Let's get some hands. We'll start with John. And of course, I'm asking out there too. I'm prepared to talk if nobody wants to chime in, because like I said, once you see things, you can't unsee them. Can you see that you believe every day you get up and one way or another that wanting or not wanting has the power to change your life? Don't you believe that? Absolutely, because that's what I do. I want things that are pleasurable. What's wrong with that? I don't want things that are painful. That's natural. But when you understand that wanting or not wanting has never changed one thing at the source of your being, and instead of changing your being with what you want or don't want, you're strengthening a consciousness that by the very act of wanting or not wanting believes it's incomplete and will one day be whole when it gets everything that it wants. So the whole idea of a time to come is upside down, because there is no time to come. This is it, to quote Vernon Howard. This is it, man. You and I are in the only time and place where it's possible to recognize the reason life seems upside down is because that's our consciousness and the way it sees it. So, John, you're on. John said it's upside down to resist negative states in others. Yes, quite true. Why is that upside down for me to resist a negative state in another human being? Anybody? Because for one thing, my resistance to someone's negative state is my attachment to it. That's upside down. Isn't it upside down to believe that by pushing you away, I'm going to be free? When in fact, by pushing you away, I'm clinging to the very thing I don't want to feel. That's upside down. Who else? Chris.
Anger, fear, or worry is justified.
That's a good one. Anger, fear, or worry is justified. Now, we just talked about that in one respect, that when I'm anxious or angry, I believe that somehow or other, listening to and identified with that reaction, that somehow that reaction to the unwanted condition is going to straighten my life out so that I'm not going to have to suffer that anymore. But when I am angry or anxious over a condition, where is my attention? It's on the thing I don't want. So it's upside down, isn't it? I'm actually paying more attention to what I don't want, believing that I'm escaping it by not wanting it. That's upside down. That is the man hung upside down, where the left has become right and the right is perceived incorrectly. I didn't look over here. Thanks, Katie. Tracy says that you are to blame for my negativity. We just talked about that one. That's upside down. Tony writes, world pollution. The world is polluted because our mind is polluted, and that's the only reason that we are upside down, believing that the more we get of what we want, the freer we will become. That's upside down because you can't free yourself with what you want. What you want owns you. Gino, it's upside down that I believe I can control that which I can't. Quite clear. That's absolutely upside down. Patricia. Yeah.
I believe that life should serve me for my happiness, but real happiness.
She said, I believe that life should serve me for my happiness, but real happiness is when we serve life. I had an idea like that simplifies that. And here it is. I believe I'm more important than any other human being on the planet. Now, maybe you don't see it, but that is as upside down as it gets. But that's at the root of me. There's no love in that. There can be no compassion. There can be no kindness. But where we are upside down is we imagine what it means to be kind and compassionate, and then act out that kindness or compassion, and then fail to see when somebody doesn't appreciate what we've done, that resentment is the real fruit of that upside down life. Debbie.
Things are upside.
She said, looking at moments full of expectation of what I hope the moment will give me, because what is an expectation is upside down. Of course, it has to be upside down. Let me go to my board here. Oh, good. Lots of Rebecca ran a lot. Oh, boy, I'm going to, you all are going so fast. Claudia, hold on. Good. Oh, this is upside down. Giving advice to someone proves that I know better than you do. Talk about upside down. The whole reason you're giving advice is because you can't stand your sense of self that's bothering you. Ellen says, the way others see us determines our value. That's a big upside down world, isn't it? Can you see that that's the source of fear? Where does fear come? Fear cannot exist in the present moment. Psychological fear cannot exist in the present moment. If you examine, even if you, like, you ever had a scare, like somebody, almost a car accident, or like, fear follows the event. It isn't part of the event. In the heart of the event, there's clear action. No one there thinking, well, why did that happen? What does it mean? What's going to happen? So that fear exists as a reaction to an event. And that reaction is either in the retrospection of the past or thinking about the future, about what I need to do, about what I think just happened. Randall, I call mind stories reality. Yes, of course. Living in a dream is one of the most ultimate forms of living upside down. Because you don't understand. Why do I have to have a dream? I'll get to you, Wayne. Why do I dream? We've talked about this. That's all we do. You understand, we live in a dream. That's upside down. Why do I live in a dream? Because everything is upside down. Because I'm always looking to the image maker, the graven image maker, the thoughts, the feelings, the consciousness, always creating something that it can look at and find a sense of itself in. That is as upside down as it gets, because every sense of self that I find in an image always turns out to be the very thing that I fear losing over and over and over again. Good, Rebecca. Mistakes are wrong. Pure and simple, isn't it? Our world is so upside down that we believe the more influential we can be with how we defend ourselves, the smarter we are. Yes or no? The very act of defending myself is an action that is upside down, psychologically defending myself. What did Christ say? That's why they killed him. He said, look, everything's upside down. Love your enemy. Oh, yeah, sure, I'm going to love my enemy. As if they understood what he meant. Who is my enemy? My enemy is a consciousness that perceives the pain I'm in as being produced by your nature. When it's your nature that is revealing to me this consciousness that must be revealed so it can be healed. Wayne. Wayne says things are upside down in that when I judge myself, somehow it's going to change the moment I'm in or myself that's in it. Of course, judgment is upside down. Why is judgment upside down? Why is judgment? Come on, we're working. Why is judgment upside down? That's it. It actually seems to prove there is a me above the self that made the mistake. Is that not upside down? I mean, what could be further from the truth? Because if there was a me above the me that made the mistake, I wouldn't have made the mistake. It's absolutely upside down. Who else? Let me go to my list. Jane says that another is to blame for my problems. Yes. Bonnie, believing I am different and better than you. We talked about that one for sure. Heidi writes, more dedicated to chasing sensations, wanting more activities to do instead of being dedicated to seeing where she's spinning her wheels and chasing her thoughts. What's upside down is wanting to prove that you know something. Do you understand that? Where am I more obviously not understanding than when I have to try and prove that I do understand? Are you not always trying to prove that you understand? John writes, what my mind tells me is the truth, of course. Beverly, past, present, and future versus now. In other words, the idea of time, as we experience it, is the product of a consciousness that keeps imagining that it will become one day something that it will find freedom in. There is no freedom in a time to come. That's upside down. Looking at the world through the eyes of wanting to become something belongs to an image maker, making the world in his own image so that he or she can be free when their kingdom comes. That kingdom ain't coming. Or more accurately, that kingdom is here. We just don't want to see it because of what we've made with this image making upside down mind. Paul writes, the more I acquire, yeah, that was a good one. I had that too. The more I acquire, the more I am. Can you see that there is this immense contradiction in this idea that is produced by ambition? Ambition tells me that I can eventually be free of what bothers me. That is the root of ambition. It is the root of it that I can acquire, own, possess, or have enough to escape what bothers me. There is no ambition in love. Love is without ambition. If there's love that has ambition, it's not love. So the love of something has nothing to do with the wish to escape something or to become something. Because the love of something already has everything in the right order. Believing that I can make myself into something begins with the wrong order. It begins with the temptation that one doesn't see that starts with, you're not enough the way you are. You will never be happy until this, that, or the other. And so we spend our lives listening to something tell us what we must do and become in order that we're finally free of the pain that's in our life. When what is the root of that pain? Come on, we've been talking about it. Everything's upside down. Joan, past resentments for someone you feel has done you wrong. Yeah, that's a big one. Resenting others for what they've done to us is upside down. Who can tell me why resentment for someone who did something to you in the past is upside down? Who can tell me why? Yes, of course, because there's the blame element. But why is it upside down? Because it isn't the reason for my negativity. When I blame you, there's no responsibility. None. In the world that is aright, it is the very essence of responsibility, because in the moment an event unfolds, the consciousness aware that it is being awakened and reflected by that event, the event reflected in the consciousness, there's perfect responsibility there. Because I don't blame the flag and I don't blame the wind. I understand it is a convergence of something greater than that. And by the way, who is the experiencer of that greater moment other than the self that realizes the consciousness is reflecting that? You see it with me. Rebecca writes, or Paul writes, my suffering over what you, I did that one. Rebecca, it's upside down to think the future will be better than the present moment. Charlene writes, I have it upside down when I believe if I care and help enough in the world that people will change. Now, let's examine that one, because that's a big one. She says, I have it upside down when I believe if I care or help enough in the world, people will change. Now, why is it upside down to try to change or care for people so that they change? Why is that upside down? Physician, heal thyself. That's the right order. You heal yourself. You won't have to think about where do I go or to help or to heal, because a human being who is upside right is aligned with what is always right, and that rightness will guide the rightness in you to do what is helpful and healing where it needs to be done in the world, beginning with you. Carl writes, depression proves there's no way forward. Yeah, that's true. Claudia, again, believing we can reconcile the past unwanted experience by revisiting. Henry, a sense of entitlement where you say the world and others are here to serve you. Yeah, I hinted at that one. What could be more upside down? And please, again, I'm asking you not to just think yourself, oh yeah, I get that. What did the grasshopper in the story of the grasshopper and the ant sing all day long? Yeah. Oh, the world owes me a living. It was a great myth of one of the fables. The world owes me a living. We believe that we are owed by this world. Now, you may not think to yourself that you do. If that's the case, then how do you answer that when the world doesn't give you what you want, you get immediately negative? The world owes me. No, the world owes you nothing. You owe everything to that which gave you this world for you to discover yourself in. That's why it's completely upside down. There's more. Lata writes, not wanting to take on responsibilities, but wanting others to comply, of course. Judith, yeah, that's a good one. Being positive protects me. Being the idea of the affirmation of being positive is the avoidance of the negativity that doesn't want to see itself as being such. John, impressing myself to believe in myself. I need what they have before I can succeed. Okay, look, this is great. I think we did pretty good here. I need to go on because we have to get to an explanation and an exercise. Take a nice deep breath. I hope that you've seen something you can't unsee. I really do. Like, for instance, here I am and I'm at work. I'm looking at my computer. My whole life, every day, I do a certain set of things. It's what I do. It's part of ensuring that the world I've imagined that I need will stay in place. So I do these things all day, every day. And then one day, and it is by the grace of God, in part because I've seen something I didn't want to see, I'm sitting there, and behind the scenes, I see there's a fear. Now, I've thought I was acting in my own stead. And suddenly I see that there's a compulsion. So there's something telling me, no, you need to look at that now. You need to do that. You must this, that, or the other. And then for a split second, I actually see something I can't unsee. I can't unsee that fear is my God. That fear makes my choices for me. I can't unsee it. Now, I don't want to unsee that. I want to see more of that, as you should. Why? Because, as I said when I started, when I really see something, the action is inherent in the seeing. For instance, I don't know about you, I'm going to be 73 in a few weeks. I cannot eat certain foods past 6 o'clock. I used to be able to eat a pizza while it was still frozen at midnight and not have a problem. I can't do that anymore. Those were the days, the 60s. But if I actually see that I can't do that without harming myself, do I have to ask myself, how do I stop eating past 6 o'clock? Do I? Or is it built into the clarity of recognizing the actual condition? The how-to is in the seeing of what? Seeing the fact. The more I see the fact, the more the how-to is built into it. And the beauty of the how-to now is that I don't have to make choices anymore. I have to agree with what I see is true and let it be my guide. Let the arrow stay pointed upward, not downward. So here's the summary. We started talking about this mystery. First, last, last, first. Turn around, repent. How does a person turn around? How do we turn around? You understand? How do I make the top the bottom and the bottom the top? The first, the last, and the last, the first. The left, the right, the left, like St. Peter was talking about. How do I do that? The answer is simple. We realize that the first thing that happens to us in every moment, but we'll start with unwanted moments. The first thing that happens to us is that we are turned. That's the first thing. It's so habitual to us, we don't see it. Sometimes when I'm talking and I see things as clearly as I do and know that I can't explain to you with the clarity I see, I still have great thanks. I feel great gratitude towards the intelligence that allows this teaching to be conveyed through me to you. I'm turned. Sitting at my computer, a thought comes. Well, I'm turned by the thought. He says, well, what about this? I'm turned to deal with what it's worried about. He says, you better do that. I'm turned to deal with its fear, not mine. In those moments, it's so obvious, and I don't know why it was never seen before, that when an unwanted moment comes, something, the donkey, the naph, the nefesh, comes and saddles me. And it puts the bridle in my mouth and pulls the reins as surely as you do to an animal when you want to turn it when you're making a field and plowing it. Just like that, turned. I've never seen being turned before. To be turned by a thought or a feeling is to live in a world where things are what? Upside down. So there is that moment when I'm turned. And what does it mean, turned? My attention is instantly handed over to the reaction born of an unnamed resistance, just like that. My attention turned, taken from me. And when my attention is taken from me, that means my world is, because it's my attention. My attention doesn't belong to my fear of what happens if this or that doesn't go right. So in the split second of that unnamed resistance, what happens? We've talked about this. Here's this unnamed reaction, this unnamed resistance. Suddenly, this consciousness has to figure out what that's about. That's already upside down because it means I'm not there. It means something is there in my stead trying to figure out for me what is this pain that I'm in. When if I was there, I would see the pain is because I'm upside down. So the thoughts start talking to me. Already again, upside down. And what are the thoughts telling me to do? What are the thoughts born of that resistance telling me to do in that moment of disturbance? Come on, you know this. Fix it, man. Restore the balance. Bring the peace back. So then now I'm thinking about how to bring about peace produced by consciousness that knows nothing about peace other than what it imagines it will have when it brings around all the conditions to match what it wants again. That world is. So the first step is for a man or a woman to realize that I've been turned. I have been turned. I've been turned to look at and to give my attention to something that my own consciousness is telling me will make things right side up. See it with me. Something happens, I don't like it. World's upside down, yes or no? He said that. My world's been upside down since 1912. It is because whatever happened, happened. No, your world has not been upside down. You have been looking at the world you are in through a consciousness that is upside down. The beginning of that recognition allows us to start having a wish and a new kind of work. Actually, this connects with our talk about the Remember Act, doesn't it? And that new wish, that new work is, and I want to be clear about this, a struggle. There is no question there is going to be a struggle. Because why? Because it's mechanical for me. I am just, without knowing it, habitually turned into a state of identifying with what my mind is telling me I must fix so that I'm free. That's upside down. You are already free to learn about what turns your consciousness. You are already free to discover. You are already free to investigate everything and anything that happens to you. But when you're turned to deal with a fear, are you free in that moment to do anything other than find some imagined peace? Are you free when fear is guiding you? No, upside down. Am I free when I'm tempted to go get something or do something so that I will feel better about myself? Is there freedom in temptation? Yes or no? And yet, how can I get to a place where I can't unsee this? So that the very advent of something turning my attention, taking it, allows me, if nothing else, to struggle with the fact that I can feel myself being carried away. I have said 1,000 times, I do not want to do this evil. I want to do the good. And I keep doing the evil. Why? Because I'm upside down and I don't know it. So the first action is to get upside right. And you get upside right by what? By learning to be aware of this upside down consciousness that wants to keep you believing that if you just do what it tells you to do, everything will eventually be right. Try to see this with me. I know we don't like it. We are working towards getting everything right, and how much more wrong can it get? I don't care what you have. Because as long as you live with something that you think you have, and you live in fear that what you have can be taken from you, and that is part of what you have with what you have a world that is upside down. And to finish the talk, all I have to do, in quotes, is be willing to see the truth of that. There is if I can find it very quickly. Yeah, I did. I love this too. In Alice in Wonderland, Lewis Carroll, the writer of it, Alice is talking to one of the white knights. Now, you may not have read the book, but I think it was even in the movie. And the dialogue goes like this, talking to the white knight. How can you go on talking so quietly, head downwards? Alice asked, as she dragged him out by the feet and laid him in a heap on a bank. The knight looked surprised by the question. What does it matter where my body happens to be, he said. My mind goes on working all the same. In fact, the more head downwards I am, the more I keep inventing new things. I love that. Don't you see? That's what it does. It invents what it must so that it can manage to see the world upside right, or at least getting there. It's not getting there. You and I have a responsibility to do the right thing, and the right thing begins with seeing where you're turned to identify with the wrong thing at the wrong moment. So I do have one thing I want to say before we initiate the dialogue. In one respect, this idea of finding ourselves being turned means that in that moment, without understanding it, we are living from a totally passive consciousness. The task is to become active in that moment so that the first becomes the last, so that the presently passive consciousness is stirred into an awakened state. And it takes on the responsibility of being present to the passive part. Active becomes passive, as opposed to the way it is now, which is reversed. That's one. Number two. In some ways, I can't think of anything that's more upside down than the belief that you have something more important to do with your life than to solve the mystery of your own existence. Now, I know most of you sit out there, yeah, that's right. But how many times do you have to be with friends or family, either suddenly finding out about their mortality or actually on their deathbed, and to see that in their eyes there is a haunting because they realize they spent their life upside down. They wasted it. Now we're all, we one way or another, to whatever extent it's true, it is true for every human being, save those few men and women who fully awakened spend their entire life being present to, actively conscious of what is unconscious in them, because in that they change the world, because the world is this consciousness. If you can attend a talk and you don't, you have things upside down. Pure and simple. Look at what you do. You see, you can't unsee the fact that to whatever extent it's true, our lives are being spent by something that is seeking to make itself free. And there is already freedom. The freedom is our right to participate in creation itself, not to analyze creation and then try to recreate what we see so that it matches the kingdom that we have described for ourselves. The upside right life is the life that is aligned with the very beginning to the very end, the Alpha to the Omega, and being a part of that creative line is what it means to be aligned upside right. To be out of that is to be upside down, no matter how you describe it. And I understand most of us don't get it. Well, I can't do that. You can every single day catch a few moments where you are turned. And if nothing else, just to realize that you're being turned and being carried along, and often willingly because you don't know what else to do with your life. But when you finally see with great clarity what I'm describing to you, I tell you, you will be given another life and another thing to do with your life. Because you cannot see the truth without the truth providing you with everything that you need to make the exchange. And in the end, what is the real exchange? What is it that has to be exchanged in the end? It is the consciousness that is upside down. And the exchange is made the moment you see it.